Ethan Grayson opened the door of La Lumiere, Manhattan's most exclusive French restaurant, with the confidence of a man who had spent years as one of the most successful CEOs in the financial sector. He adjusted the Rolex on his wrist as he held the door for Vanessa Carter, his new girlfriend. Vanessa, a model frequently gracing magazine covers, entered with the same air of superiority Ethan had come to both admire and tolerate. The ambience was dazzling as always. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling, their light reflecting softly across polished marble floors. The hum of soft French jazz floated through the air, blending with the muted clinking of wine glasses and quiet conversation. The maître d', a man who recognized power the moment it walked in, hurried forward with a smile that bordered on reverence. "Mr. Grayson, welcome back. Your table is ready," he said smoothly, leading them toward a private corner where the city lights framed the window like a moving painting. Ethan nodded slightly, acknowledging the greeting, his expression calm but commanding. Vanessa followed, her heels clicking against the marble in a rhythm that drew eyes from nearby tables. She knew how to attract attention, and she loved it. Once seated, she crossed her legs gracefully, her designer dress shimmering subtly under the ambient light. "You always pick the best places," she said, flashing a perfect smile. Ethan smirked, his eyes briefly scanning the restaurant before settling back on her. Only the best, for the woman who insists she deserves nothing less. She laughed softly, taking the compliment as a given rather than a gift. Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying her. There was something about Vanessa. She was beautiful, yes, but there was also a cold precision in the way she carried herself, like someone always calculating the next move. It reminded him of himself in boardrooms, negotiating billion-dollar deals, except she used charm instead of strategy. The waiter approached, pouring sparkling water into their glasses. "Would you like your usual, sir?" he asked. Ethan nodded. "Yes, and for the lady, the same." Vanessa placed a manicured hand on Ethan's. "Actually," she said, glancing up at the waiter with a teasing smirk, "I'll have a glass of Dom Perignon. 2010, if you have it." The waiter bowed slightly and disappeared. Ethan chuckled. "You really know how to make a moment expensive, don't you?" Vanessa shrugged, her tone unapologetic. "You said it yourself. Only the best." For a few minutes, they sat in comfortable silence, the kind shared by people who knew how to project perfection in public. But beneath that glossy surface, Ethan's mind was elsewhere. His phone buzzed quietly in his pocket. A message. He ignored it at first, not wanting to break the illusion of the night, but the vibration came again. He excused himself, pulling the phone out discreetly under the table. The message was from his assistant. "Call me. Urgent." Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. It wasn't the kind of message his assistant sent without good reason. He typed a quick reply, "I'll call after dinner." Then he put the phone face down on the table, masking the small flicker of irritation that had begun to rise. Vanessa noticed. "Business again?" she asked, swirling the champagne now being poured into her glass. "Always," Ethan replied smoothly, forcing a small smile. "But tonight, I'm all yours." She smiled, but there was an edge in her eyes, a mix of curiosity and something darker. "You say that, but you never really stop being a CEO, do you?" Ethan studied her for a moment before answering. "You don't stop being who you are. You just learn to hide it better." Vanessa tilted her head. "And who are you hiding tonight?" Ethan didn't answer right away. The question lingered between them, heavier than it should have been. He looked out the window, the lights of Manhattan stretching endlessly below. The truth was, he wasn't sure anymore. For years, power had defined him. But lately, it felt like something was slipping a piece of himself, or maybe the illusion that had kept him untouchable. The waiter returned with their meals, breaking the moment. Plates of seared duck breast with black truffle risotto were placed before them. The aroma filled the air, rich and intoxicating. Vanessa took a small bite and closed her eyes. "Perfect," she murmured. Ethan smiled, but his appetite was fading. His phone buzzed again, this time just once. A short vibration, a notification that someone had accessed his private office. He froze for a fraction of a second. Only a few people had that clearance. He excused himself smoothly, standing. "Just need to take a quick call," he said. Vanessa nodded, pretending not to mind. Ethan stepped outside onto the restaurant's terrace, the night air sharp against his skin. He dialed his assistant immediately. "Talk to me, Laura." Her voice came through low and strained. "Sir, there's been a breach. Someone accessed your system remotely. They knew your codes." Ethan's heartbeat slowed, but his voice stayed calm. "How much did they get?" "Everything related to the Redwood merger. And your personal account files." Ethan exhaled quietly, the city lights blurring as his mind calculated damage. "Lock everything down. Get cybersecurity on it. I'll handle the rest." He hung up, staring into the skyline. Somewhere out there, someone had crossed a line. And Ethan Grayson never let things like that go unanswered. He returned to the table, masking his expression perfectly. Vanessa looked up, sipping her champagne. "All good." Ethan smiled faintly. "Just business." She leaned closer, touching his arm. "Your tense occupational hazard." Vanessa's eyes sparkled. "Then, let me distract you." The night passed with laughter, polished conversation, and wine that cost more than some cars. But even as they left La Lumiere, Ethan's mind stayed sharp, calculating, thinking. He had built empires from nothing. But this was different. Someone was playing his game when they reached his penthouse. Vanessa kicked off her heels and collapsed on the couch, stretching like a cat. The view of Manhattan glittered behind her, but Ethan didn't sit. He walked to his desk, opening his laptop. Vanessa watched him. "You're really going to work now?" Ethan didn't look up. "It's not work. It's survival." She sighed. "You know, most people try to separate their personal life from their professional one." He glanced at her finally. "That's why most people lose both." She smiled faintly. "And what about you? What do you lose?" He paused, fingers hovering above the keyboard. "I'll tell you when it happens." The screen lit up. Security feeds, encrypted emails, alerts. One message caught his eye, an anonymous file upload labeled for you. He opened it cautiously. A video began to play. It showed the entrance of his private office, security footage from earlier that day. A woman entered, wearing a black coat, a hat low over her face. She moved with purpose, familiar. She went straight to his desk, inserted a drive, and left within 2 minutes. Ethan froze. The walk, the posture. He knew it, Vanessa. He glanced over at her now, relaxed, scrolling through her phone, completely at ease. He shut the laptop quietly, walking over to her. "So, tell me," he said softly, "how was your day before dinner?" She looked up, smiling. "Why? Just curious." She tilted her head. "You're acting strange." He smiled faintly. "Am I?" Vanessa laughed lightly, but there was a flicker of tension in her eyes. "You're doing that thing again." The interrogation voice. Ethan sat beside her, his tone calm, but his gaze unyielding. "You know, it's funny. I've been thinking about how quickly you got used to my world. The places, the people, even my schedule. Maybe I just pay attention." "Maybe," he said quietly. "Or maybe you had help." Her smile faltered. "What are you implying?" "Nothing," he said, standing. "Not yet." He walked back to his desk, pouring himself a drink. His hand was steady, but inside, he was already planning the next move. If Vanessa had betrayed him, he needed proof. But he also knew she wasn't working alone. This was bigger, smarter. Later that night, after Vanessa fell asleep, Ethan sat by the window, staring at the skyline that had made him rich. Power wasn't about money, it was about control. And someone was trying to take that from him. He turned on his phone again, scrolling to a contact labeled Aiden. He typed one message. Find out everything about Vanessa Carter. Start tonight. Minutes later, a reply appeared. Already ahead of you, Ethan smirked. He admired efficiency. The next morning, Vanessa woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Ethan's voice on the phone. He was already dressed, crisp and composed, as if last night hadn't happened. Understood. Make sure the board doesn't hear a word about this, he said before hanging up. Morning, Vanessa said softly, walking toward him in one of his shirts. You didn't sleep. Didn't need to, he said, handing her a cup. She took it, watching him closely. You're hiding something? So are you. Their eyes met, a silent duel of intellects masked by charm. For a moment, the illusion of love cracked, revealing to predators studying each other. Vanessa broke the silence first, brushing his arm. You think too much, Ethan. Not everyone's out to get you. He smiled coldly. You'd be surprised how often they are. She laughed, pretending to take it as a joke, but her hand trembled slightly as she lifted the cup. Ethan noticed. That day he went to his office, a sleek glass tower overlooking the city. As he entered, employees straightened, murmuring greetings. He moved through the halls like a storm contained in a suit, calm on the surface. Lethal beneath. In his private office, Aiden was waiting. A former intelligence operative turned personal investigator. You were right, Aiden said, sliding a file across the desk. Ethan opened it. Photos, transactions, background repo.